Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wa salam ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Welcome everybody from around the world. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem, and this is the BAK Show, where we're going to be discussing some issues which are important to you, those issues which pertain to the Muslim Ummah at large. I am your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem, and we are broadcasting live on YouTube, and in addition to that, also on X. Okay, everybody, we're going to get started here. We've got a few things that we need to discuss. And first and foremost, and chief among those things that we need to discuss is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is coming to the Middle East. He's going to be in Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh, and he's also going to be in Israel. Basically, the reason why he's coming here, if we can put this in colloquial terms to make it quite simple, this is a victory lap for him. He believes that it was through his participation that ended the war in Gaza. And he wants to make sure that he milks this moment for all that it's worth. He even went so far as to say that the issue hadn't been solved for thousands of years, and he came along and he solved it. This man has the biggest ego I have ever seen. Now, the first thing is that they are gearing up for a prisoner exchange, which is supposed to take place tomorrow, wherein it's been said that Hamas has made all the preparations so that the prisoners are prepared. And though that concludes those that are both living and dead, there are thousands of Palestinian prisoners, but there will be about 1,700 that will be released. It doesn't appear that longtime prisoner Marwan Barghouti is going to be amongst those released. We'll have to wait and see. So we're going to have to take a look and see what happens with that. But we want to talk about something. That's Donald Trump. In your opinion, I want to know what some of you think also. And I'm going to tell you what I think. Does Donald Trump deserve the Nobel Peace Prize? My sincere opinion, just being honest, I cannot believe that this is even a conversation that's being had around the world. I'm going to say this again. I can't believe that there are people out there. I'm not going to say whether they genuinely believe it or not. I'm going to say that there are people out there who would even say that Donald Trump would deserve a shot at the Nobel Peace Prize. The lady who won the Nobel Peace Prize from Venezuela, I believe it is, even she came and she said, "Oh, I'm dedicating this to Donald Trump," whatever that means. But she said she's dedicating it to Donald Trump because he deserved to win. Based upon what? Did everybody forget? Do people have selective amnesia that it was Donald J. Trump and his billions of dollars which helped to finance this debacle, this genocide, these massacres which took place in the Palestinian territories? Does everybody kind of forget about that part? Why would he deserve the Nobel Peace Prize for that? Did everybody forget that it was America that got, or I should say Joe Biden that got the Ukrainians to think that, look, host us and we're going to come to the table and all, and we're going to set up a NATO base on Russia's borders. Don't worry. And Vladimir Putin, he ain't going to say nothing. Well, he said something, and it dragged the Ukrainians into a war. But then somewhere down the line, the Americans started to feel like, this is dragging on for too long. And the Americans are threatening now, okay, well, you know what? I don't think we're going to continue this. And it's like, whoa, wait wait a minute, y'all got us into this situation. And that's where we are today. Donald Trump said, no, he initially he said that he would solve it as soon as he became president. This is when he was running for office. And then he came in another interview and said that after my election, even before I take office, the issue is going to be solved, or something along those lines. Well, it ain't solved yet, and it's still ongoing, and the bloodletting is still going on, and there's no indication that the Ukrainian war is going to end anytime soon. So I would have to say to you, brothers and sisters, there is no way that I would ever feel that Donald Trump should receive the Nobel award for any reason whatsoever. Full stop. And once again, I can't even believe that this is even a conversation that we're having. All right. After having said that, I want to go into a different topic. I did an interview just some time ago, and it was just published by Max Blumenthal, who is a journalist with an outfit called The Gray Zone. Now, Max Blumenthal, I would say he was not a fan of mine. He used to call me the Al-Qaeda journalist, and I was Al-Qaeda and the Al-Qaeda and the Al-Qaeda. Max Blumenthal was a big supporter of the Assad regime, and up until now, he still tries to defend that indeed Bashar al-Assad was a good idea and he should have been kept in place. And I did an interview with him. Now, some people, they didn't warn me. They said, listen, man, this guy doesn't mean you any good. There's no point. But that's not my politics. I don't operate like that. That's kind of like when you have this beauty of Islam, but you only teach Islam in the masjid. I mean, Islam stays in the masjid. We don't want it to stay in the masjid. We want this message to resonate. But that means sometimes you have to go in circles outside of your comfort zone. You've got to go to the marketplace. You've got to go to the bus station. You've got to go to the train station. You've got to go to all different types of places so that you can help people to understand exactly what's going on with the Muslims. And that can't always happen when you're doing things from very specific and, I would say, limited platforms. So I opted to go onto his show, and we had an hour-and-a-half interview. It was a long interview, no question about that, but I think there was a lot of benefit in it. And I think that we were able to help the people to understand some nuances about what happened here in Syria that, or I shouldn't say we helped them to understand, but I think that I helped people to understand that there are a lot of nuances that needed to be heard, that it wasn't just as cut and dried as people thought that it was. Okay, Bashar al-Assad is against America, therefore keeping him is a good idea. Well, 26 million people didn't here in Syria didn't have that idea. And I'm just being real with you. So I think that it was a successful interview, and I appreciated him inviting me on his platform to answer some questions. But things went a little bit off track because there was a promotional interview, or I should say promotional video, which was shared. Now you guys can go on my Twitter feed and you can find it on X, the actual video that they circulated and a link to the actual statement in which I made, because I was unhappy because there was in his heavily edited promotional video, making it seem that I was accusing Ahmed al-Shara of cutting off heads, chasing people down the street because their pants were not above their ankles, and things of this nature. Now, as you know, I am critical of Ahmed al-Shara, the president of Syria. But I'm not going to be unfair to him, and he wasn't doing that stuff. But that fit the narrative of Max Blumenthal and his audience. So they edited the video in such a way in which to make it sound as if that was what I was saying, therefore authenticating that these people who say they want Sharia are all just a bunch of bearded barbarians. So I didn't like that so much. And so I did a tweet, a post that basically just helped people to understand what I actually said. And I was talking about a completely and totally different topic wherein he cut a part out that he wanted me to say, spliced in from another part of the interview, and the two had no connection. And no connection. So I was disappointed behind that. After having said that, once again, I say it was a good opportunity to be on his platform so that we could discuss these issues. I think that people that were part of his audience were unaccustomed to having someone who knew the different nuances which were taking place here and could help them to understand it. So I felt that it was a win, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Okay, let's take a look and see what we have here. All right, we've got Nick here, and he says, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nick, coming from America, what have the problems you have seen in the Islamic world that keeps it from coming together and helping one another? Lack of adherence to the Quran and Sunnah. Full stop. That's got to be clear for you guys. The reason we're in the situation that we're in now is because people, too many people, I'm talking about normal people. We didn't get into the government agencies yet. Too many of the average people are not serious about their Islam. Yeah, they're Muslim. Yeah, some of them pray. Some of them go to Jumu'ah. And they're really religious when somebody dies. But it lasts for about a week. And therefore, they support leaders who are just like them. And they end up oppressing them and selling out to their enemies. And that's the single most thing that is undercutting this ummah. Now, what can be done about it? I'm not going to get into Abdul Fattah al-Sisi, Bashar al-Assad and stuff like that, because when you see the implementation of his religion from a religious standpoint for Bashar al-Assad, he's just like the rest of the Syrians. Now, the rest of the Syrians don't have maybe that bloodthirsty demeanor that he had, probably still has, or Mohammed bin Salman, but you got too many people that are playing games. Too many people playing games. And therefore, the seriousness with the Quran and Sunnah isn't there. And so many of the answers to our problems, who's good, who's bad, who can we work with, who can we not work with, and so on and so forth. How do we deal with financial matters? Because we keep trying to pull some slick thing where we got to get involved in the riba and stuff because of the country and the whoop-de-doo. And then we continue to have economies that tank. But we're unwilling to do anything new. We're unwilling to do anything different. We want to keep doing things the way we've been doing them. And therefore, we keep getting what we've gotten in the past. For some reason, we have this addiction to failed policies. We're addicted to it. It's like somebody that's on that weed, somebody that's on that crack. They can't get off it. You try to tell him, look, this is ruining your life. And he's like, no, I have to have it. It's like, come on, man, try something new. Okay, weaning yourself off that crack pipe might be difficult at the beginning, but look at what you're going to have when you get to the other end. Nope. And that's how we are. And that's why we're getting our butts kicked all over the world. Now, okay, we've got Maureen here who says that he's watching from Falls Church, Virginia. Good to have you, man. Always good to have you. Okay. Okay, we've got Mob Gabus who says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Are you kidding me with the title? should have won. Don't make me laugh. Only thing this enemy of Allah deserves is his punishment. Ameen. Ameen. That's what Donald Trump deserves. And you know, there are some people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extends their life so that they can do more evil. And then once he calls them back, he calls them to account, and all those evil deeds are placed around his neck. And if ever I feel, and Allah knows best, I feel that there was a man whom Allah prolonged his life so that he could call him to account for so many more ugly deeds if he would have died when he was 25 or 35 or 45 or 55 or 65. I think he's 78 and he still looks like he's going strong. And, you know, I think he's going to have some trouble on Yom Qiyamah. I do. Okay, next up, we've got Ansar 95, and he says, I'm hearing that there are more and more fighting between SDF and the new government. Do you know what Syrian soldiers think about the SDF? They hate them. The Syrian soldiers remember that there would have been no siege of Aleppo if it wasn't for the SDF, YPG, Kurdish militia forces. There wouldn't have been, because the government troops of Bashar al-Assad could only surround Aleppo city from three sides. They needed the Kurdish forces in Sheikh Maqsood and other places to be able to complete the siege. Thousands of people died in that siege and went hungry. Syrian people, they remember that. They didn't forget. And therefore, they look at them with disdain. Now, do they look at all Kurdish people in that way? No, they don't. Because for many years, they lived together and, they used to trade with one another, deal with one another, speak to one another, get into fistfights with one another. It was just normal society. But a lot of that changed with the revolution. And there's a lot more that we could say, but the short answer is that no, the brothers wouldn't be happy with an expansion of Madloum Abdi and his forces in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Okay. We got AI user here who says, Assalamu alaikum Bilal, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We hope Syria will recover, inshallah. I think the difference between the revolution, Syria, and Afghanistan is that there are Islamic scholars leading in one place and not in the other. Bam. That's it. That's it. And the people of Islamic knowledge, the scholars in Afghanistan, they were on those battlefronts. They fought. They're fighters. Too many of the Ummah scholars, they didn't even show up. They didn't even come. And who am I? I'm a nobody from New York. How the heck did I get here? And the scholars around the world didn't even show up. How did that happen? What's up? Something's wrong. And that's why this revolution gave birth to ISIS and other extremist groups. And Allah knows best. Any updates from southern Syria? Not anything new since the last couple of days. It still remains that Suwayda is under the control of Hikmat al-Hajri. It is said that there's some people there who are not happy with Hajri and his forces and the way that he's governing the situation there. But I don't think Hajri has anything really to worry about. He's got the backing of Tel Aviv and the weaponry and such like that. So I think that that's not going to bring about any immediate change. Daraa is still without any government troops from Damascus, and Quneitra, for the most part, is Benjamin Netanyahu's backyard. Now, From your experience, how keen are Syrians to learn Islam and produce major scholars? I think that Syrians have got to be shown the benefits of Islam. I think that they've gone for too long without any real Islamic teaching and learning. And they need people to go out and reach out to them. Because you have many people who go to the masajid and they pray and such like that. But even there are not enough classes in the masajid. It's rare that you will have, I'll go to a masjid and between Maghrib and Isha, there are classes on Aqidah, classes on fiqh, classes on Mustalah Hadith and stuff like that. You don't really find that. You have Salat, but the average Syrian's Islamic education is sorely lacking. It's on a much lower level than, we'll say, the Egyptians. The average Egyptian has more Islamic knowledge than the Syrians do. That's real. Maybe some Syrians are not going to like that, but that's the reality of the situation. But there are also, or at least when I was there, things have changed now, but there were more people of knowledge where you could, on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday and Thursday or whatever, you could find different classes in different areas with people who had solid, proven Islamic knowledge. But here, no, you don't have that. And that's a shame. And that's got to change. Could you tell us something about the old sheikh with the white headscarf who's often seen besides Jolani? I would have to see that person. I don't know who that is. Offhand, I don't know who that is. Alrighty. Okay, Omar Ghorzai says, also important question, how is the governance of the Syrian National Army going nowadays, and how are they placed in the current government, especially in Tel Abyad, Ain Isa areas? Those specific areas, I cannot tell you. However, the Syrian National Army no longer exists. All of the fighting factions have been absorbed by the Ministry of Defense, and they've been scattered all throughout the country. So that specific area, Tel Abyad and Ain Isa areas, I can't tell you about those specific areas. But there's no more SNA. It doesn't exist anymore. Okay. It says here also, the people of Damascus have rallied the most times in Syria for Palestine and Gaza with beautiful slogans. It might not be anything, but it means a lot on times of division and fitna. Please report. I'm not there. I'm not with you. And let me tell you why I'm not with you. When you go to a place like Italy, it's a long way away. When you go to a place like the UK, that's a long way away. But when you're a neighbor to a genocidal government, you got to do more to pressure your government to act. And I understand they were under a tyrannical leader, and now they're under Ahmed al-Shara, who doesn't appear as if he's going to be very active in that regard. But no, I can't sit here and tell you that it was an adequate response to a genocide that's going on in the Palestinian territories. I can't say that. And I'm sorry if some people might think I dissed the Syrian people, but I just don't see it like that, guys. I wish I did, but I don't. The response was not enough. No. Okay, we've got here Kewart who says, Everybody loves Afghanistan. Yeah, well, I know I do, and I know a lot of other people do too. Next, we've got the Rec 36 who says, how do you think things would have turned out if Iran and Hezbollah listened to Hamas about Syria and supported the rent? I don't think I quite understood that. How do you think things would have turned out if Iran and Hezbollah listened to Hamas about Syria and supported the rent? I think they mean the revolution. That Iran and Hezbollah would have supported a Sunni revolution? I don't think so. I don't think so. The Iranians are inherently against Sunni Muslims. The group known as Hezbollah in Lebanon, is their right arm proxy. I have no reason to believe that anything would have been different, or Hamas's convincing would have changed anything. They are the Iranians. You're not going to get anything out of the Iranians for Sunni Muslims. The Iranians smashed us big time. They smashed schools, hospitals, weddings, and they wouldn't let up. And that is the reality of the situation. So somewhere in there, we're thinking that maybe the Iranians were just confused. They didn't know that Bashar al-Assad was this genocidal maniacal murderer that he actually was. Is that what we're saying now? No. I'm not there. No, I'm not seeing that. Next, Xander says, Assalamu alaikum, brother. Alaikum salam ta'akatu. I've seen on Twitter many pro-SDF accounts having Israeli flags and being upfront about being pro-Israel. If the U.S. abandons them, would that be a green light for Turkey? On paper, the U.S. is pushing for the SDF to integrate with the government of Ahmed al-Shara. I am not so certain that that's exactly what they want to do. And I know that the Israelis don't want that, because the Israelis need to keep Syria weak and divided. And therefore, they can fund and back militia forces in the southern part of the country. That's in Suedat. They have their own forces in the southern, in the southern part of the country, in the Quneitra area. So that's another place. But they've got nothing happening in the northern part. And that's where the SDF militia forces come into play. They're there. They're looking for support. And the Israelis have shown that they have interest in doing that. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But do I think that the U.S. abandoning the SDF? I don't think that the U.S. would abandon SDF, because it's not good for Israel. It's not. And their foreign policy revolves around the Israeli wants and needs. Now, let's see. Okay. Some areas in Suedat are in government control, but a couple of days ago, Hijri took control of village of Wegum. Abu Muhammad needs to answer how that happened. I don't think Abu Muhammad has to answer why he took the village of Wegum. I think Abu Muhammad Jolani needs to answer how he got in control of the whole part of Suedat in the first place, when you had the Bedouin tribes here in the summertime who had a good portion of it under their control, and they handed control over to his security forces. How did that happen? That's what needs to be answered. I'm sorry, not just about one village, because that's a systemic thing that we saw in the summer. Now, people call me a hater. You can go ahead and you can call me that, but I'm telling you what was on the ground. If you choose to believe that or choose not to believe that, it's up to you. But the Bedouin tribes that flooded into Suedat area at the call of the Bedouins who were being oppressed by the Zionist friendly Druze militia forces, They had taken over large parts of the countryside and a good portion of the city of Suedat. I was in the city of Suedat. Now, if a brown fellow like me is in the city of Suedat, you know them Jews forces that are Israeli friendly are not there. So, after having said that, how did it become possible that all of the city of Suedat came under the control of Hekmat Hijri? How did the countryside come under control of Hekmat Hijri? How did all that happen? That's what we need to ask, and Allah knows best. All right, let's take one more here. Let's see. Okay, Abu Malik, we're going to wind things up with Abu Malik. And he says, when you overthrow the Assad regime but ended up not applying Sharia and Islam, that means we didn't win the war. Bashar did. No, it doesn't mean that. I mean, you know, if you only see the world as big or small, and that's it, it's black or it's white, and you can't see the shades in between and all, I think you're missing a big part of it. Firstly, when you said, but not applying Sharia and Islam, that means we didn't win the war. Okay, no, you're right about that. We didn't win the war. We got rid of Bashar, but that wasn't the goal of the war. The goal of the war was to bring Islam to Syria. That was why so many Islamic fighters were fighting. Now, the rest of the country might all say, hey, we didn't sign on for that. Okay, yeah, you didn't sign on for it because you didn't fight. And that's the reality. But those people who are fighting, a good portion of them wanted to bring Islam to the Syrian people. That didn't happen. So you said that means we didn't win the war. Okay, we could say up until this moment, we didn't win the war because we didn't complete what we set out to do yet. But it doesn't mean Bashar did. Bashar is roasting marshmallows probably in Moscow somewhere. That cat is not in charge of anything. So how can we say he won? So I think that these nuances have to be observed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. All right, everybody. I got to get ready to run. Actually, I have to go and meet up with my kids. I've got a class to teach them. And please do visit our crowdfunding page at madinah.com/voices of truth. That's madinah.com/voices of truth. We need your support. We need it bad. So please, brothers and sisters, come and join the caravan of those giving. I am Bilal Abdul Kareem. Jazakum Allah khair.